Hello dear creatives, welcome to Classy by Mavi. In this tutorial, you'll be learning how to draft a jumpsuit from the scratch. So we are just assuming everybody are beginners. We are taking the tutorial from the scratch, even if you can draft a basic trouser, okay? So we are assuming you don't know how to draft it, we are taking it from scratch. So just follow suit as we start the drafting. So for the measurements, you'll be needing your normal trouser measurements, and then you add just one more measurement. So the measurements you are needing for trouser are your waist circumference, your hip circumference, your knee circumference, and your trouser length. The rest of the measurements will be derived. For instance, we have your crotch measurements, okay? Some persons do measure crotch, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll be deriving the crotch. So because me particularly, I like deriving my crotch with the formula hip circumference divided by 4 for a basic trouser. So for that basic trouser, hip circumference divided by 4 basic trouser, the waistline is usually on the belly button, that is on the navel, right? So for the jumpsuit, the extra measurement we'll be adding is to measure from your natural waistline to your belly button. That is the true waistline, so to say. Your true waistline on your body is in between your rib cage and your hip bone, okay? That is the fleshy part of your waist, that part that when you pushes it, you will not touch any bone. So that's the part you are measuring from. You just place your tape there and measure to your navel. For me, that measurement is 2 inches. So true waistline to navel is 2 inches. That true waistline is usually not the waistline you take when you are measuring your bodies, because when you are measuring your bodies, your waistline is still on your rib, right? But for the true waistline, you step down by 1 inch from the rib to get to that location, right? As soon as you get that location right, making a jumpsuit will not be a problem for you anymore. Now for the waist to knee measurements, I normally do not take it, but if you want to take your waist to knee measurement, just simply measure from your waist to the kneecap, and then you go up by 2 inches to get your knee placement, okay? When we say waist, we mean the actual waist where the trouser is going to be. For this jumpsuit, already I have explained the belly button upwards of 2 inches. From that point, you measure to your kneecap and go up by 2 to get your knee placement. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be deriving the knee placement. You see exactly how I'll be doing that. So the first measurement to be deriving is our crotch measurements, the crotch length, okay? So for your normal trouser, that is the trouser that comes from your belly button, the normal crotch length is hip circumference divided by 4. So for this jumpsuit tutorial, we'll first of all divide the hip circumference by 4, then we add the 2 inches that will take us to our fleshy waistline, that is the true waistline. So for me, my hip circumference is 42 inches. So 42 divided by 4 gives me 10.5. Now 10.5 plus 2 gives me 12.5. So that is what I'll be using as my crotch length. So remember, once again, for the jumpsuit, the joining comes from the part that deepens inside, that is the fleshy part in between the rib cage and the hip bone, okay? So from your navel upwards to that point is 2 inches on my body. So on your body, you have to measure your own 2 to get that 2 inches that you'll be adding to your hip circumference divided by 4 measurements, okay? So hip circumference divided by 4 for me is 10.5 plus that 2 inches, which would take me to that fleshy part, is 12.5. So I'll be using 12.5 as my crotch length. This is the gist of this jumpsuit. If you miss this part, your jumpsuit will not fit. Please do not miss this part. So I am marking 12.5 now, okay? Do not mind the way I'm placing the tape. I'm condemning the first 1 inch. So if I'm marking for 12.5, you'll be seeing 13.5, right? Let me clear this so that you will not get confused subsequently. So I'm marking from the 2 inches part. So that's why it's like that. Now I'll mark 10.5 which is the normal hip circumference divided by 4. I'll mark it towards this side. On the waistline too, I'm also marking that 10.5. okay, and now I will link. For a basic trouser, we usually call this box a square because all the lines are normally equal, right? But for a jumpsuit pattern, please take note, these two are equal, but using the normal hip circumference divided by 4 measurements, and then the other two are also equal using the normal hip circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches. That's these other two lines. Okay, so these two are equal, these two are equal. That is for a jumpsuit. These two are carrying 12.5 while these other two are carrying 10.5. I hope everyone understands how we got to this point, right? So we use our normal hip circumference divided by 10 plus 2 inches to get this line, okay, which is for our jumpsuit. And then for this is the crotch length, and then we have our crotch line. Okay, for our crotch length we use 10.5 plus 2 to get the crotch length, like this and like this. Okay, then here is our crotch length. We use just hip circumference divided by 4 to get this part. We did not add another 2 inch because it is our crotch line. So there is a difference between crotch length and crotch line. So I have labeled, here is our crotch line. So the next thing we want to do, we want to get our hip line. So to derive your hip line, you just go up from the crotch line by 2 inches, right? Mark 2 inches upwards from your crotch line. Or you can actually measure this on your body. It is simply your hip rise from your waist to your hip, from your high waist, like from the true waistline. Now you measure to your hip. That's how you get it. For me, the measurement is usually 10 inches. Remember my tape, I'm measuring from 2 inches, so it is giving me 11. It is actually 10 inches. So I have marked it. Now it's the same thing with deriving the crotch depth upwards of 2 inches. So my normal true waistline to hip is 10. Now also crotch line upwards of 2 inches is also 10. So I have my waistline both derived, my hip line both derived and measured the same on the same place. Okay, so derivation is always okay, it works perfectly. Okay, so now we have our crotch line and our hip line. So the next thing we want to do is to derive our front crotch extension so we can extend the crotch line. So for the formula for front crotch extension is hip circumference divided by 20. So 42 divided by 20 gives me 2/1/8 or 2/1/4 thereabout. So I have marked it and I'm simply extending my crotch line outwards. Can you see? So that is it. So the next thing we want to do, we want to get our full length. For the full length, I am working with 42 inches. Okay, while this video was recording, I did not know that the full length area wasn't recording. So please pardon me. I am here marking 42 inches after adding some pattern papers, okay, to the existing pattern paper. Normally I would have shifted it upwards, but I didn't know how the video was recording, so I did not take note that the down part wasn't recording. So at this point I am adding pattern paper to the down to make it complete, to make it to get to 42 inches, so to say. So after that I'll simply mark 42 inches. Now after marking 42 inches, I'll go down by 2 inches. That's, I'm adding extra 2 inches to take care of the hemming of the hemline. Okay, so in total I marked 44 inches with 2 different lines, one line carrying 42, the 44 inches also another line. So as the tutorial proceeds, I'll show you how the hem area is. So after marking the 44 inches on this side, I'll proceed to this other side too, so I can get a straight line on the hem. Okay, so I have simply marked Oh, I just hoped you saw the M here, but you still did not. But don't worry, as the tutorial proceeds, I'll show you how the M looks like. Okay, pardon my voice. So to get our knee placement, now that we have gotten our full length, you simply divide from your crotch line to your full length. That's the full length is 42, remember, and we have two lines underneath here now. One is carrying 42, one is 44. So but for now, we are to get our knee placement, we are measuring from the crotch line to the 42 inches full length. Okay, remember, not 44. So by the time the full length area is clearly shown, I'll explain this again so that you get it better. Can you see? I'm using my tape to divide it into two like this. Then I'll mark the points and put dotted lines on that point. Okay, now this is not it will not be our final knee placement line. Okay, after putting the dotted lines, I will now mark 2 inches upwards. It is not a final knee line, that's why I'm dotting it. Now on this point, I'm going up by 2 inches. Good. So this point is now our knee line. This is where we'll be placing our knee. This is always very accurate. Always very accurate. If you don't want to measure your waist to knee cap upwards by 2, you just use this method. So here is our knee line. Now that we have gotten all our lines, let's move on to the drafting proper. So we'll start with our waist circumference. My waist circumference is 28. 28 divided by 4 gives me 7 inches. So I am marking 7 inches from this line backwards like this. From here to here, I mark 7 inches. And now I'll use my hip curve to link it to my hip line. Can you see? If you do not know how to place this hip curve well, your drafting will be very, very funny. So just watch me and see how I place my hip curve, okay, to get a beautiful and perfect hip shape. Can you see? So I have linked it using my hip curve. Now the next thing is to curve out our front crotch extension. Okay, to curve it out, what you simply do, from this angle you measure out 1/4 inch. Okay, so from this angle here you just measure out 1/4 before you link, so that you get a beautiful curve like this. Can you see? So I am about to mark that 1/4 inch from the angle upwards, so the curve passes through that point I just dotted. Can you see? So I have gotten my front crotch curve very perfectly. Okay, next we want to mark out our trouser crease. Okay, to get our trouser crease line, that is the center of the trouser, you simply divide your crotch line into 2. That is from the extension. Can you see? From the extension, the entire crotch line, you divide it into 2. That will give us the center of our trouser. That is the trouser crease, so to say. Just watch what I'm doing. So we have our crease line marked. Let's measure and see what we have gotten here, so we can extend the crease line down. So can you see? This is about 6/1/4. So you get to your knee line and also mark that same measurement, so you can link. Can you see? So here I'm dividing the trouser into 2. Sorry, it was not really showing well. I'll go down again to the hemline and do the same. I'll insert the same 6/1/4 measurement, and then I will link it to the knee, so that my crease line will be extended also downwards. Just be patient with that M part of the trouser. I will still show it. Okay, I will soon show it, and I'll explain whatever I have done there while it was not showing. Okay, so we have our trouser crease also. The next thing we want to do, we will be dividing our knee. okay, on the knee placement line. My knee circumference is 18 inches. You divide 18 inches into 2, which will give you 9. Now we are inserting the 9 inches on the knee line. So I'm simply marking 4.5 here and also 4.5 on this side. And now I will link to the hip line and to the crotch extension. See how I'm placing my tape my hip curve to get a beautiful curve here. And then I'll switch over to my straight ruler to take it down to the hem line straight. Kindly note that we are doing it a basic trouser pattern first. So by the time we are transferring it to the fabric, we will now alter it to a palazzo pants, okay? So a palazzo jumpsuit pattern. So for now, it is a basic method we are using. So I have linked on both sides. Now is to link it to the crotch extension, okay? I've also done that. Can you see what we are having now? Okay. So it's at this point I realized the down part was not recording. So can you see the down now? Okay. There are some things I did here that was not showing, so I want to show you now. Can you see? We have 2 lines there in the down part. The first one is 42 inches. Can you see? This is the real full length. I have written FL there. Then I added 2 extra inches, which will make it 44 inches. Okay, that is for the hemming allowance. Okay, so I have 2 lines there, 142, 144. Now we did something from our crotch line to get our knee placement. So we divided the crotch line in between the crotch line and the full length to get the knee placement. That's the full length that we used, okay, not the other one. So this was how I did it. Watch. From here to here, and then I folded my tape like this and got to this point. Can you see? I marked it and then I went up. I inserted dotted lines first and then I went up by 2 inches to get our knee line. Can you see? So I hope that is very clear now. So even for the linking of the hip line, after linking, I used a straight ruler, I went down. Even for the crease line, I went down, as you can see. So I am cutting out our front pattern already. It is fully ready, okay? There is nothing to add. There is nothing more to subtract. So I am cutting it out. The only slight alteration I did after cutting out was to step down from the center front by half an inch, just half an inch. You will see it. Okay, now that the entire pattern is clear, I feel better. Just watch me. So our front pattern is complete now. Now watch me do the alteration. I'm stepping down from the center front by half an inch, and then I'll link it like this. Just watch me. I linked it to the side like this, and then I'll cut out. This is just to give the waist a nice shape. Okay, it is best you do it for a more perfect fitting, right? So our front pattern is complete. Now I'll get another pattern paper so we can draft our back pattern. As you can see here, I've gotten another pattern paper. As I stepped the front downwards a little, that is, I gave a space for the upper part for the back. Okay, and now I have added extra pattern paper still to the hem area of the back so that everything will be balanced. Okay, so your front trouser needs to be higher than your back trouser needs to be higher than your front trouser. So that's the reason why you give a space for the upper part. So I'm trying to make the extra pattern paper stay in place. So here we are done placing our front on another pattern paper to cut out our back. So the major things you look out for is to ensure that you have a space up to 2 to 3 inches in the upper part, and also on the sides you should have a space up to 2 inches that will accommodate the back, okay, depending on your measurements though, but ensure that the spaces are up to these mentioned numbers. Okay, so having done that, the first thing we want to do be coming from the down towards the up. Okay, so just watch me. For the down part, you have to pin your pattern paper to make it stay in place, or you mask it using masking tape to put it in place. Okay, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just trying to stabilize it with heavy objects. So the first thing you do, on your knee line, you mark out 1/2 inch on both sides, 1/2 inch this way. On your arm, you also mark out 1/2 inch, your arm line, 1/2 inch on both sides. Can you see what I'm doing? So on the knee line, I'm also doing the same thing. So after that, I'll use my straight ruler and link the points together. So I'm extending the back outwards. I'll go to the other side and also insert the same line. So we have taken care of the down. We are coming upwards like this. So the next thing we want to do is to take care of our back crotch extension. You remember your front crotch extension, which was hip circumference divided by 20. For the back, it is hip circumference divided by 10. For me, the answer gives me 4 1/4. Hip circumference divided by 10 gives me 4 1/4. If you can remember, the front crotch extension was taken from this line, was marked out from this line. So for the back, the back extension will not be the same thing. Okay, so just listen. From this point, we marked the front crotch extension outwards. Okay, can you remember? For the back, we'll step backwards by 1 inch first. So after marking that 1 inch point, I place my tape on that 1 inch. So I am marking the back crotch extension from this 1 inch point. Okay, so you get to realize that it will be perfect. So just watch what I'm doing. So I marked 1 inch backwards, and I am adding, I'm marking the 4 1/4 now. Okay, can you see what I'm doing? So here is 4 1/4. Sorry, my hand was covering what I was measuring, but note that from this marked 1 inch backwards point, I measured 4 inches outward to extend the back outwards. Okay, now I am linking it to our knee. I place my curve like this because I don't want it to be too curvy at this point. Okay, so I have marked. Now what we'll do, we'll now insert our hip circumference divided by 4 and mark from this point. This point we marked 1 inch backwards. That's the point that we are now marking our hip circumference backwards from. Hip circumference divided by 4 is 10.5, so it brings me here. Okay, it brings me here. Now we have our hip line also. So we are going up to our hip line, and also we are marking 1 inch from this line now. Okay, we are now placing our tape backwards to insert our hip line. So I have done that too. Now I will link it back to the knee using my hip curve. Can you see how I place the ruler this time around to get it perfectly, that beautiful hip shape? So we are done with the down. We are now moving to the upper part. So after now, the next thing we want to do is to get our center back line. This is our center front line, right? So for the center back line, we'll be using these points to form it. This point upwards. From here, we'll take it upward to get our center back line. Now to do that, we'll be doing some jobs in front. For the center front, from the center front line on the waistline, we'll be measuring 2.5 inches backwards. Can you see? So we measure 2.5 inches and mark here, and then we go up by 1.5 from this point. Measure 1.5. Please, when you are doing yours, do not do that front alteration of 1/2 inch before you do the back. Complete the back before you do that front alteration. Okay, So this is how we'll be linking the line, okay? But for now, I will not rule the line clearly because this is not our back pattern. I'm just inserting dotted lines to guide us, okay? So this is just to guide us. As we proceed, I'll insert the line. This line comes from inside and it will be going straight. Look at it here. So I'll just mark it like this. I'll just mark it. So after this, I can now remove my front pattern, okay? But before then, we are still continuing, okay? Now remember, our waist circumference is 28 inches. 28 divided by 4 gives 7 inches. So I'll be marking 7 inches from this point backwards now, okay? 7 inches from here to here gave us 7. So since this is our center back line, we are marking our 7 inches from this center back line now, okay? We'll simply mark it and then we link to the hip line. So look at where we are supposed to mark it. We are supposed to take it straight to our side back line, okay? This was the point I realized I have already done that alteration, okay? So stepping it upwards by half an inch, the center front alteration that we mentioned earlier. So I am adding half an inch to this line so it raises up more. So this is the reason why I say you should not do this alteration first. You should complete your back first, okay? I hope that is clear. And now this line remains. So our back line, our back waist will be a slanted line like this. Can you see? Okay, so the sides are equal, but the centers are not equal because of the butt. The center front and the center back are not equal, but the side back and the side front are equal. So I have linked it to the hip also nicely. Can you see what I'm doing? So at this point, I'll be removing the front pattern. Can you see? So this is the line we are forming. This is our center back line, okay? I hope you are following. Wherever you are getting it wrong, you can just pause, rewind, and replay. So this is how is it for now. The same thing, we'll be going upwards by 1/1/4 from this angle to get our back curve, our back crotch curve like this, okay? Just watch me. I'm taking it one at a time. Can you see? So we have gotten our back crotch curve also perfectly. Our front and back patterns are now ready. So we are done with drafting our patterns. Like I mentioned earlier, if you are not getting it right in any point, pause, replay, rewind until you get it right. And also feel free to ask me questions, okay? Drop your questions in the comment section. Now I am cutting out the back pattern also. So our front and back patterns are ready. Here we have our front and here we have our back, okay? So I'm simply labeling front and back. Can you see? So it's time for us to transfer our patterns to fabric. But before that, our upper bodice is also important. I want to assume you know how to draft a basic bodice pattern. If you don't know how to draft a basic bodice pattern, I'll be dropping the link in the description box so that you can go and watch the video, my video of how to draft a basic bodice pattern. But I'll be drafting it still here, but not from the beginning, okay? So if you don't know how to draft it from the beginning, just watch that video so you can learn something. Here is the fabric we'll be using, okay? But before we will be transferring our patterns to fabric, I'll go ahead and show you how to make a jumpsuit upper bodice. It's the same thing just the same upper bodice making pattern, but there's a slight difference in the waistline area. So that's what I'll be showing you. Here I have drafted the upper bodice to an extent to the chest line. I hope you can do this. There is the neckline, the shoulder, and the armhole already. Okay, so we have our shoulder to chest. That's where we have ended. I've done this for both back and front. I hope you can do this. If you cannot, like I've mentioned before, go to the description box and watch the basic bodice video. So for your basic bodice pattern, normally the waist is not getting to that fleshy part when you measure. Okay, it is still on the last rib. But for this jumpsuit pattern, you drop down from your normal waistline by 2 inches, by 1 inch, to get to your true waistline. Okay, remember, for the trouser pattern, we went upwards from the navel by 2 inches. Now for this basic bodice pattern, we'll be dropping down by 1 inch from your original waistline, okay, to get to the fleshy part. So normally my waistline, my shoulder to waist is 17, but when I'm making a jumpsuit, I work with 18 inches. I work with 18 inches. That means I'm adding extra 1 inch. For my back and front half length, the difference is usually 2 inches. So if I'm making a jumpsuit, the back becomes 16 inches automatically, right? So that's the essence of showing this part of the bodice. So if you have been following me and you have taken some of my online classes, you know that my shoulder to waist is usually 17 inches, right? For the sake of this jumpsuit I'm making, I am marking 18 inches, dropping down by 1 inch to get to the fleshy parts. Okay, so I have marked 18 here. So I marked 18 here, 18 inches. So normally the difference, like I mentioned, between back and front is 2 inches. So I am going to the back and mark 16 inches. So if I have marked 18 for the front, the back automatically becomes 16 inches. Apologies, the back part wasn't actually showing very well, but note that I am marking 16 inches to get my back half length. Okay, I've inserted the line, and for the front too, I have also inserted the waistline. So that is it. That is just the magic. Every other thing you can do it. It's just basic. For this jumpsuit pattern, I worked with side darts alone. Okay, just watch me. I'll just complete the rest of the bodice pattern. So next, I am inserting my waist circumference divided by 4, which is 28, divided by 4 is 7. I've marked 7. I am adding 2 extra inches after marking the 7. Can you see? So in total, I have marked 9. And I'm now linking it back to the chest line where I have already marked my bust circumference divided by 4. I added that extra 2 inches because of that intake. So now, before I do my dart, I am marking my shoulder to bust. My shoulder to bust is usually 10 inches to box apex. Okay, so this is it. I have marked it and I have my bust line. So to insert my dart, I'll be inserting my bust span measurement, which is 7 divided by 2 gives 3.5. I have marked 3.5 on the waistline. Now I am moving to the bust line also to mark 3.5. I have marked and I will link to get my dart leg. Okay, so I have my dart leg now. For the dart intake, I am marking 1 inch on both sides, which is these 2 inches I took before. Okay, so I'm taking it out. I added before. I'm taking it out as a dart. Okay, I hope this is understandable. It should be. So the back and front half length difference is 2 inches. I'm using that 2 inches to take care of the side dart now, so that by the time the side dart is closed, back and front patterns becomes equal. So we have our darts, side darts, and our waist darts. Our front pattern is complete. However, when I'm sewing, I will not sew with the waist dart. So I will transfer the waist dart to the side dart. I'll be working with only the side dart. So for the back, I'll also insert my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 7. Then for the dart intake, it is just 1 I'm using for the back. So I'll add back 1, which is I'm marking 8 inches now. And I'll link to the chest line, of which I have also marked hip circumference divided by 4 there. So I have marked it. Now I marked half an inch for the center, from the center back to do my back tightening, so that my zipper lays down flat. I've done that. Now I'll be dividing from that point. I'll be dividing the back into 2 to get the center, to get where my dart will be coming from. Okay, so the waistline of the back, I'm dividing it into 2. I've done that. Mind you, this division included the center back from the beginning. I did not take away the back tightening line. Okay, sorry, my hand is actually covering what I'm doing there. So it is from the real back I measured. Now I am coming upwards to also do the same measurements. After measuring, I'll be linking. No, I didn't do it well here. So I measured and saw what I got and came upwards to also mark the same measurements. Now from the chest line, I stepped down by 1 inch before I inserted the measurement, so I can get a straight line. Can you see? So my dart ends 1 inch below the chest line. The dart intake half an inch on each side, and I'm linking it back to that point. So our back dart is also complete. Our back pattern is also complete. It's now time for us to cut out our pattern. Before we cut out, let's do a little alteration for the front. So I'm working with a V neckline. So I'm coming down from the front by about 10 inches. Okay, this basically depends on how deep you want your V to be. You can do more, you can do less. So after determining how deep I want my V to be, I'll mark. Here I actually marked 9 inches, and I'm linking it back to the neck point. If you want it wider, you can mark about 1 inch away from the neck point before you link. Okay, for mine, I just wanted it narrow, a little bit narrower. Now for the shape of my sleeveless dress, I'll also come inside. I'll carve out 1 inch from my normal shoulder. So look at what I'm doing. I've marked 1 inch away and I'm linking back. So this is the alteration I have done on the pattern so far. So like I mentioned before, I'm not sewing with both of the darts here. I'll be sewing with just the side darts. So I'll close the waist dart and open the side darts. Okay, you see the process of how everything will be done. So I'm simply cutting out the pattern now. Next, I'll be contouring the neckline so that it doesn't gape. You see all those necklines that you make after sewing, the neck will not be balanced. Okay, so in this case, I'll do my contouring so that my neckline will stay balanced. I divided the neckline, the V neckline part, into 2. So I'm tracing the middle. After getting the middle, I am marking half an inch on each side of the line I marked, and then I will close it as a dart, like I'm inserting a dart there, right? A 1 inch dart. I'm contouring the neckline with 1 inch, so it becomes tight and fits nicely. Use your masking tape and tape it to stay like this. Can you see? So this is how to contour your neckline to avoid gaping. So at this point, I have finally decided to use the side dart. So I'm cutting off the side dart so I can close the waist dart. Can you see what I'm doing? So before you close any dart, you must open up another dart. So I have opened the side dart and I'm carefully closing the waist dart. As you can see, the side dart becomes wider, way wider, because I have transferred the waist dart to it. Also, the side dart has become 4 inches. You know, the original side dart was 2, the waist dart 2. So it has become 4 inches. By the time I sew, it will give me the fitting, the 3D fitting on the bust area. So I could have as well taken it elsewhere, but I just want to be basic. I'm working with the basic side darts. It's now time to cut out the back, but first we'll make this same alteration here. We'll mark 1 inch. We'll mark 1 inch away from the shoulder tip, like this, and then we'll link it with our hip curve. Okay, our shoulder armhole curve. Armhole curve. So we'll link with our armhole curve like this, and then we'll cut it out. Okay. For the darts, we are not working with it. We'll be closing the darts by the time we are done cutting it out. Now we also have our back pattern. I'll be closing the darts this way. Okay, so by the time I close the dart and transfer to fabric, I'll be avoiding this bulge. Can you see this bulge here? You will not see it on the fabric if I follow this exact shape to cut out. Okay, so in that case, we'll just be having our zipper beautifully lined to our body. Okay, and here we have our front pattern. You know, the front and back patterns were not equal. Now by the time we sew the side dart and close it, it will become equal. So our patterns are ready. We have our front and back patterns here. Can you see? So when we close this side dart, first of all, you are closing the waist dart, right? Then on the fabric is when you now sew the side dart close. When we close, can you see the front and back sides are now equal? Okay, so the effect will now be on the bust area, making the bust protrude. So welcome back, dear creatives. Now we want to sew. Here is our fabric, like I've already shown before. This is the fabric we are using. It's an Ankara fabric. I'm using 3 yards of fabric. If you are big, please use 4 yards. For me, I would have used 3.5, but because I don't like pockets on my pants, especially jumpsuits, I did not use 3.5. I'm using 3 yards. It will be enough. But for the sake of this tutorial, I would have actually used 3.5 because I would have loved to show the pockets. Okay, how to fix the pockets. Or if you want a video tutorial on that, kindly drop in the description box, in the comment section. Drop in the comment section. Let me know if I should make a separate tutorial on how to fix pockets on a pants. Okay, so here is our front pattern. I am placing it on the folded fabric now. Because it's a palazzo pant, I'm giving enough allowance on the side, so I'll be able to mark out my palazzo pattern. Okay, so I've gone further to arrange the fabric very well. So from this hip, I will not take it straight. I'll do my alteration. So first of all, I'll get my straight ruler. From the hip, I'll go straight down. This is another palazzo pattern too, without flaying it out. It goes straight. You can actually just use it like this and sew, but for me, I want it a little wider. So from this point, I'll mark 3 inches outwards. Now watch me. I measured my 3 inches I have marked. So I will now link this point. Now here I'll link it to the hip now with the ruler. Can you see? So this is how I'm doing it. Please try to put your patterns to stay in place. You can use a metal weight to hold them down when you're doing yours. Okay, so this is my palazzo alteration to the side. Okay, so I am done with this side. For this other side, I'm just trying to reinforce the line so that you can see clearly. I hope you can see what I have done. Now let's move to the other side, to the center front area, to the inseam, right? The trouser inseam. So for this one, you just come straight down from the crotch and take it down without flaying anything out. That's when you get the exact pattern. But as you are watching the video, you will notice that I flared it out a little by 1 inch, just a little by 1 inch. But during the sewing process, I later eliminated the 1 inch. So this line I have ruled here for the side is perfect, and then the one I have already ruled for the center is also perfect. Ignore this extra 1 inch I am adding, right? This 1 inch, you have to ignore it because I later cut it out. Okay, so what you are seeing on the pattern here is very perfect. So I'll cut out the pattern now. As I'm cutting out, if you notice, I'm not cutting out on the line. I am adding half an inch sewing allowance before cutting out. So I'll add this half an inch all around the trouser pattern, except for the hem where we already have our 2 inches sewing allowance on the drafted pattern. So here we have cut out our front pattern. So just watch what we just did. Let me reenact it again so that you'll understand very well. So the first thing we did, we just used our straight ruler and bring it straight from the hip to get a line. Then from that line, we flared out by 3 inches and linked to the hip area. For the crotch area, you just go down straight. Please just go down straight. Ignore this 1 inch that I added. For me, I added 1 inch before the extra half an inch sewing allowance, and then I went up. But when you are doing yours, come down from the crotch straight, except you want it very full. I wanted it full, and later I changed my mind to get this exact pants that you are seeing here. So the pants I finally made, I pulled out the 1 inch excess I added. I came straight and added half an inch sewing allowance. So I'm doing some alterations down. I went up from the side by 1 inch to curve out this curve you are seeing here. Okay, this is just to get a nice shape for the hem. I hope this is understood, and we can now move on to our next patterns. I'll do this exact thing for the back also. Now back to our bodice pattern. So I have transferred the basic bodice to fabric also, adding 1 inch, half an inch allowance all around and 1 inch side seam allowance. Then as you can see me here doing, I am cutting out the side dart. I'll just sew it. Okay, after cutting it out, this is what we are having here. So I'll just sew it together like this with a 1/4 inch, which was the allowance I gave. So after sewing, my bust effect will be visible. Okay, by that time I'll also go ahead and add facing to the neckline. It's just a very simple jumpsuit. There is no lining. Okay, I'll sew, add facing to the neckline. Then for the back, there will be no dart at all. As you already know, I have closed the dart for the back. I'll only use facing. Okay, so this is the back pattern here. I'll transfer it to fabric also without any dart. So I'm folding my fabric into 2 so I can get 2 patterns. Okay, so I'll place the back like this. Remember, the back is not on fold. Okay, we need that slanted center back to make our zipper lay very flat. Okay, so remember, this dart is closed. I'll place it very well and then cut out for you to see. So the zipper allowance is 1 inch, the side seam allowance is 1 inch, every other allowance half an inch. So our back is also complete. What I'll do, I'll simply sew the upper body separately After cutting out the facing, I'll use facing for front and back necklines. I'll join by the sides, finish up the armhole area, join back and front. Then I'll show you how I'll be joining it to the jumpsuit, to the trouser part, to make it a jumpsuit. So I want to believe you already know how to join a bodice like this. First, you join from the shoulders after adding your facing. So now we just move on to sewing our trousers. So dear creatives, here we have our front, and then we also have our back pattern here. So we are done transferring to fabric. It's now time for us to sew. As you can see here, from the waist to the hip area, I cut out with half an inch sewing allowance. Can you see? So it's half an inch sewing allowance until I get to the crotch line. Okay, and then from the crotch line I started flaying out, following the 3 inches I marked on the arm. Okay, with the addition of half an inch. For this other side, the center front side, I did the same thing. But when you are doing yours, you shouldn't flare out. You should just go straight down like I mentioned while we were drafting. But if you want it to be dramatic and very flared at the inseam area, you can do that. Okay, but for me, I later realized it was too big there, so I made it straight. Okay, so at this point I would have attached my pockets on this area, but my fabric was not enough. I've already mentioned this before. 3.5 yards of fabric would have given me my pockets, but I'm using 3 yards, so I have forfeited the pockets. If you want to learn how to insert pocket to a trouser, kindly drop your comments for me, so I will know. So I will make a separate video teaching that alone. Okay, so having said all of that, it is time for us to sew. We will now be moving over to the sewing machine to start our joining. So dear creatives, it's now time for us to sew. We are first of all joining the crotch area for the front pattern. After joining that, we'll now move to the back and also join. Okay, we are joining with half an inch sewing allowance, of which that was what we also added. Okay, so I'm done sewing the front. Opening it up, this is what we have. Okay, now we'll keep it aside. Look at it from the wrong side, keep it aside, and also do the same thing for the back before we start joining the back and front sides together. Okay, now for the back, we'll drop down by 10 inches from the waistline. Okay, before we start sewing, can you see? We back stitch and then we sew because of the zipper. Okay, the 10 inches is for the zipper allowance, so that you can freely wear your jumpsuit. Then we'll back stitch again and then you open it up. I'll show you how it appears now. Okay, can you see? So we have sewn a center back, leaving out the zipper allowance. So after that, I went to the ironing table to press nicely, opening the seam to iron very nicely. So here it is after ironing for the front, and this we have the back also. We now place it right side facing each other so we can sew and join the sides. Can you see? So make sure to iron, don't omit this process. It makes the jumpsuit come out very neatly. Okay, so I'm aligning the sides now. I'll be stitching with half an inch of sewing allowance. I'll back stitch and then I'll continue. So I'm stitching now. Now I'll stitch it till I get to the hem. So I'm at the end now. I'll also flip over to the other side and do the same thing for the other sides, joining the sides together, front and back. And I'll sew till the end before we move over to the inseam area. I'm also at the hem now, so it's now time for us to join the inseam, starting from the crotch area. Just watch me. I'll be aligning the lines, the seam line of the back and front crotch together. Can you see? So you align them and start sewing from there. If you are using pin, this is the time you pin to stay in place. Okay, I'm not used to pinning, so I'll just continue sewing. I'll advise you pin to stay if you are not used to not pinning. Okay, it makes your work faster. So after that, I am sewing. I'll sew on one side till the end, then I'll flip over and sew on the other side still till I get to the end. So I'm at the end and I flipped over so I can sew also on the other side. Can you see? Starting from the crotch area. Okay. So dear creatives, we are basically done with the trouser parts on the down. So we are done stitching all the sides, and here is what we are having. Can you see what we are having? You might not see it clearly now, but I just hope you can see at least to an extent. Can you see? So this is on the wrong side. Flipping it over, let's check what we also have on the right side. So here we are, flipping it over. This is what we are having. Just take a look at it. Look at it. But this is not the full view. What I'll do, I'll simply finish up the bodice, and then I will show you how we are going to attach the bodice to the trouser. So here we have our bodice. Our bodice front and back have been joined together. We are done sewing the bodice. The next thing we want to do is to attach it to the trouser. I want to believe you know how to join the bodice like this. Okay, this is just a basic bodice. You can actually join a jumpsuit trouser to any other bodice. It can be a corset, it can be a bustier, it can be an altered or a dart manipulated bodice. So any other bodice you can join, right? This is a basic bodice. That's why I didn't bother to show that part. Okay, so here is our trouser pattern and here is our bodice pattern. The first thing you have to check out for is the side seams, right? The side seam of the upper bodice and the side seam of the trouser. If they don't align, then there is something wrong. You need to go back and correct whatever is wrong. Okay, so I'm checking. Mine is aligning, so I will pin to stay and then go over to the machine. And so let me get my pins. So now I've gotten my pin, so I'm simply pinning. I'll flip it over. I'll pin it in a way that I'll be able to sew. So I'm pinning right side facing right side. Okay, so I'm aligning the side seam first. That's my major target. If the side seams are not aligning, as I've already mentioned, you need to redo or loosen something. Okay, so mine is aligning. I'm pinning now. So I've pinned the side seam areas, then I'll continue pinning so that the waistline in its entirety will stay in place before I move over to the sewing machine. Now I am done pinning, so flipping it over, this is what we have. So after sewing on the machine, this is how the jumpsuit waistline area will look like. Can you see? So this is it with just pins. It is coming out nicely. Now I'll go over to the sewing machine and join it. Okay, I'll be joining it from the left side. Okay, so I'll just sew like this and then we'll be done. So dear creatives, I'm simply done. Can you see our jumpsuit? I am done. What I'm left to do is to make the facing stay in place. The facing on the neckline area, I'll be using my hemming gun, but before that I will have to iron. I'll have to weave the raw edges. So after weaving the raw edges, I'll use my hemming gum to make them to stay in place. Then the hemline too, I'll do the same. Okay, look at what I mean by the facing. So I'll make the facing stay in place. Then after that, I'll go ahead to fix the zipper. Okay, so our jumpsuit is ready. Kindly watch till you get to the end so you can see the fitting on my body.